about UX research exploding. And really it feels that way, at least, of course, within our bubble. You're just hearing about it everywhere. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about that, would you say it's because of the need to have UX researchers working side by side with individuals in the industries of places like AI, because you need that thinking? And then if you're thinking like a UX researcher and you have a little bit of that kind of semantic thinking as well to help them along with these kind of formulas to understand how humans are thinking and interacting with stuff. And then you also have VR, which are totally new spaces, AR, totally new spaces. Is that, do you think, what's pushing this UX research kind of drive right now from industry?
I think what's pushing it, and I could be totally wrong, I think people are realizing, like, you build these products and it's really expensive to build, and they're for people. You should sit down with the people who are going to use them and see how they comprehend them, understand them, use them, what their journeys are, what their problems are like. And I think as people found how successful it was, when you would concept, prototype, iteration, put it in front of a user, like, rather than this very long, what is the waterfall approach or something like that. But, putting users into the process, like inserting them along the way, is just a win-win. Like, it's going to make your product better. You're going to fail faster because you're going to fail here instead of when you've already launched it. So I think people people just started getting to know that. And at that point, when you said like user-centered design, and there's this, it's been out there for a long time, like in product design, and that kind of thinking, like the design of everyday things, and so I really feel like it's just become, as opposed to the, product engineer design, that's what it is, putting research in there and embedding researchers into a team that works with engineer leads, works with product managers and designers, and knows the product really well, and because nothing beats, like, you're a designer and you've designed something and you have to stand back and watch somebody else use it. That's just so illuminating. Like, it's so, the expectations they had, the wrong moves they had, the delights they had, the blockers they had, the motivators, like, I think knowing all that, and that's really, I think, what has made, you see just the growth of UXR, and, so many places, like a UX team of, like, that's one of the first books I read was like UXR team of one. And that's how a lot of people started. Our research manager now was the first Lyft researcher, and she built their entire UXR program, and then just recently came over to manage our design research team. So, I mean, I think it's just all of a sudden they're like, people see the value in really incorporating users and their sort of their needs and their problems and how they interact with things. I think that's really what.
Can you provide an anecdotal kind of example of when you were in that phase and there was like an interesting outcome or funny outcome or unexpected outcome, and kind of what you were looking for in that research phase when you were working with, to kind of give us an idea of what a kind of a snapshot would look like of that?
Without divulging like too much stuff, but what like the process of what we do is, the designer has an issue or problem or something they're curious about, and so I can sit down with them and go over, like talk to them like what their designs are, or whatever it is, what they're trying to learn. And then sometimes we'll make them do hypotheses, and I'll say like, well, what do you think? What do you think? How do you think the user's going to, you have this question, what do you think the answer is? And so one of my favorite ones recently, was that I was able to answer the question in that initial kickoff meeting. And I said, well, this is what I think is going to happen. I think the user's going to do this and this. And so this product idea you have is going to be invalidated. But we went through the whole process and everything like that. So what you do, you meet with people, you find people that are like high value users or high intent users, and then and then you kind of go in there and ask them questions, have them use prototype, things like that. And then because what you're trying to do is like, you've got that hypothesis, you know, I think this user experiences X problem when they do X or something like that. And then afterwards, I remember they were, you know, it turned out that this product wasn't viable. And they were like, this is the first time you know, they were so crestfallen and everything. But I said, no, this is great. Like, learning that you should not put time and money on something, towards something, is just as important as doing it. And so that was kind of the one time they were just really surprised when this like product idea they had really didn't have legs, because it was being solved other ways, and people who were kind of solving it, they didn't see it as a problem. So like their current method was fine. So there's no reason to like introduce something new when what already happens works. So, but I don't know, you're always finding some fun little gems. You're always meeting some kooky, wonderful user, you know, who's doing their interview, like they say they're a big giant like entrepreneur, and they're like in the back of a Lululemon like storeroom closet doing the interview, like, and you're just, what's going on here? Like, and just weird. It does keep you sort of on your toes, and you learn a lot of interesting facts. People are very forthright and stuff. So it's always interesting, I guess.
How long?
Yeah,
I
that's
think that
strange.
are you curious about like the whole process, or like you were saying, like some sort of gem that I learned? Like a lot of that stuff I kind of,
That was great.
it's either really boring or it's like I can't really mention.
That was great. I'm curious about all this stuff actually. But one more quick question, then I know Josh has a question. But how long is a cycle of doing that? And do you have multiple projects going on at one time? I guess.
Yeah, this is very unhelpful. It totally varies. There's something called rapid research, which I did when I worked on Chrome operating system on Chromebooks, which was we called rapid research, which had a 2-week cadence. And so it was really fast. And it was a lot of usability, like iterative designs and tactical research. But I could get somebody, as long as I could get my participants, I could have a prototype or a paper prototype sometimes, or like they'd use a stylus and it'd be like a chopstick, like it was scrappy. But if there were specific answers I knew I could get them quickly to sort of move the design forward. And that's the most important thing, which I should probably mention in the beginning, is what we do is like, it has to have impact. Like, I'm not going to answer any question if it's not going to move the design in a certain direction and have an impact. Like, that is first and foremost the most important. So I would do it in 2 weeks. And so I'd have those going on, and I might have a longer study. I did some accessibility research at Google, and that took probably 3 months, because it was finding the participants. I did really in-depth interviews. And so, you know, you do usually have at least 2 things going on, you know, of whatever they are. And I really like them because, one thing I like about it is, and I'm kind of adamant about like not being only usability, but I like the variance. Like, I'd rather have somebody come and like the problem. Like, I love to go to our like UXR office hours for Chrome. I'd be like, I'll go to it. Like, I'll be the researcher, because it's like everybody, they have these problems, and I'm just like, again, roll up my sleeves. Like, how are we going to solve this? Like, here's the problem. Like, we could do this. Geez, we could do a participatory design. We could do this method. We could, you know, and so there's lots of different ways to sort of solve, but you have to know what that initial problem is that you're trying to figure out, you know, and once that happens, you know, and it could be a diary study. So a diary study is like, people are using the actual device or feature, you know, and so then, you know, you might need them to use it for 2 weeks, or you might need to, you know, or they might be using 3 things, and you're using A, and you're using B, and you're using C, and then you're using B, and you're using C and stuff. So that lends itself to being like a multi-week thing. But you could also, like I said, you could go to a Starbucks and stop people and say, I'll give you a $20 Starbucks card if you answer these questions for me. You know, it'll take you 15 minutes. And I mean, you know, or go to a cafe or do something and pull people, you know, your participants aren't going to be like this wonderful cross section or whoever you want, but you're going to get some answers if those are the types of answers that you need. So it can be super short, you know, or it could be months.
I remember that person at the mall who was walking around with a clipboard asking people questions
Yeah.
back in the day. But you're just saying, just go out and try to understand who your persona is, first of all, where your demographic is, and then just go to the Starbucks where that demographic might be and give them a $20 Starbucks card to
Yeah.
ask them.
Or $10 or nothing or whatever it
Or
is,
a
you
cup
know,
of
I don't
coffee.
know.
Yeah.
And you know, you can also another good thing too is a big proponent of piloting something. And so if you are, you know, you have like some interview questions, or you have some prototypes, you know, that you want somebody to go through, whether it's a paper prototype or like a mock, you know, on a tablet or whatever, a laptop, like make sure you just have a friend. It doesn't matter if they're your family member or whatever, like just make sure you get through the process once to really make sure there isn't any like major blockages or anything like that, because you don't want to waste a participant and a $10, $20 gift card or whatever, I don't know, on somebody where you're just like, oh gosh, like I didn't even think that they would push this button and that like, or do something that like, I don't know, whatever it is. So it's always good to kind of do a dry run, you know, or several.